Putting Nintendo and good in the same sentence is considered a reason for instant death on the internet. After all, Nintendo is a greedy company that wants to get all your money, just like every other company. That's just kind of what they do. Some of them in the video game industry try to ruin the video game space with the closure of incredibly talented studios, firing passionate people, or increasing the prices twice every year. Like, what do you mean the PlayStation Portal costs $250? This thing can't even play games. I can get 2 Switch Lites for that price. Then you also have companies that destroy themselves bit by bit, without any competition altogether. Almost like a Looney Tunes situations where the antagonist plants a trap and proceeds to walk into his own trap for no reason whatsoever. Although in this case it was greed. It's always greed. And yet you have Nintendo over here releasing a system for $450. And people are losing it, stating that they could get multiple other handheld devices with a significantly better price. Look, I may be stupid. I may be somewhat blind, hence I wear glasses. But what do you mean better price? The only comparable system would be the Steam Deck, but even then. Both of them have their positives and negatives. And in all honesty, I'm positively surprised that they haven't increased the system's price since launch. Because hardware components aren't exactly cheap nowadays. It only gets worse and worse every year. It's also obvious that the reason for the physical versions of games being that expensive is, well, because memory. Especially in that form factor, it's mad expensive. People like to blame Nintendo for everything, also because of the only available 64GB versions, right, that are available since the start, and game key cards. But it's because that's the best thing they could have done. Nintendo is just buying components here. Why would you even need, for example, a 32GB version of flash memory in such a form factor in 2025? It's a pretty specific thing that Nintendo specifically needs. At a time where you have 8TB SSDs and 2TB micro SD cards, it just isn't really worth it to manufacture, to create smaller sizes. Since the prices are so high for those, there were murmurs that for some of the physical versions of games, Nintendo actually has covered some of the price themselves for those cartridges. And instead of just ignoring the fans, they actually started to negotiate or make a deal with a company called Micronix to create smaller card sizes. While companies have closures left and right, Nintendo doesn't have any closures whatsoever. As a matter of fact, their retention rate is almost perfect, and nobody that works for Nintendo wants to leave. From what it sounds like, they are actually a pretty fantastic company to work for, and that the employees get treated pretty well, it seems. They also do neat stuff that I don't really see that much with other companies. I see myself using the Nintendo Music app more and more often. I think this is a great addition to the service. GameCube games, although granted I wish the output would be a bit faster, but you know, at least we still get SNES games, Game Boy games, and some other stuff from time to time. We had an update to run Switch 1 games as of docked on Switch 2 in handheld mode, which is an absolute blessing, and honestly it is something I didn't expect Nintendo would do out of all companies. And yet, here we are. Xenoblade 2 is finally playable in handheld mode. Took us long enough. It looks even better than docked mode now. The performance of this thing is way better than expected. Third-party support is through the roof and most games run pretty smoothly on the system. Once again, DLSS on a dedicated console is a life-saving feature for the system, and in general the GPU is pretty capable overall, thanks to it being NVIDIA hardware. It's almost like they know what they do. Although it may be true that Nintendo is putting quite a bit of stock into third parties carrying the system right now, I wouldn't really say that Nintendo is laying back and doing nothing in the video game department. They realize that video games take longer and longer to make. Bigger scope, better visuals, cooler mechanics. It all takes time, sure. Back then, with the Wii U failing, they had a system with games to fall back on, which they don't really have right now. But even then, in years where Sony and Microsoft releases like 3 or 4 games a year, Nintendo is still pretty consistent with its release schedule. Even if it's just a Switch 2 edition, they offer something new every month. They try to release something like genuinely every month, and I think that's cool. Granted, the first year was kinda overall, especially for a launch year. But if you look back to all the previous launch years of various other systems, it actually wasn't that bad. I kinda had to remind myself too of that, because the launch year of the Switch 1 was kind of a unicorn. It was impossible to match this year in any case. I find it funny if people say that the launch sucked, but then I always want to ask, in comparison to what? The price and specs suck. Well, yeah, okay, but in comparison to what? I also would have loved an OLED screen and the chip fabricated on a smaller node so you could get double the battery life. But oh, would you look at that, we have such a system. Are you willing to pay almost $1,000 on such a system? You and me, we live in a bubble. The typical audience, right, the general audience, doesn't even know what the difference between an LCD and an OLED is, or what DLSS is, or what VRR is, like everything. They see a Nintendo system that can do 4K, can also play games in 120 FPS if wanted, right? Neuron activation, they see the price in comparison to the PlayStation 5 and Xbox, and think, yeah, it's a no-brainer, end of story, or. Okay, but Nintendo has nothing to show this year. Where are the games? I will tell you another thing I actually appreciate, especially after the disaster with Tears of the Kingdom and Metroid Prime 4. I actually appreciate how we have only a handful of months between the announcement and release of the game. This is such a nice thing that happens less and less nowadays. I think it's cool to find out that, I don't know, a new 3D Mario's coming out, but it's like less than half a year away. And talking about Mario, although this is something to the people only playing Nintendo games and complaining about the lack of Nintendo games, although by their definition that only includes Mario, Zelda and Pokemon, I find it great that they give other IPs a try. I find it great that they try to revive old IPs and give them a chance to find success once more. Who does that nowadays? It's a really nice way to fill up the gaps in between those massive releases and give us something more unique to experiment with. And like I mentioned before, the third-party support is through the roof. I genuinely don't understand how much people refuse to play anything but Nintendo. Resident Evil 7, 8 and 9, peak, multiple Game of the Year contenders. FF7 Remake and Pragmata, which both have great demos to try. If you don't know if you like them, give it a shot, it's free, you can try them. Cyberpunk 2077, which received a superb port. Street Fighter 6, Hades 2, Hollow Knight and the sequel Silk Song. What do you mean you are bored? There are so many great games. To be completely honest, I'm overwhelmed myself. I think there are too many good games being released. I can't keep up. There's also old games I'm playing and streaming. The original FF7, Xenosaga 1, 2, 3. There are games like Shadow of the Colossus, Kingdom Hearts, Outer Wilds, Okami and Halo and so many more which I have yet to play. Games I want to play. That I want to experience. So many stories I want to be part of. Some Switch 2 editions or free upgrades made me go back for a bit just for the fun of it. I think it's cool. And hey, Nintendo's going ham with third parties in the future. Have they ever collaborated that directly with so many developers? From Software included. How cool is that? How unusual. Elden Ring is also still coming, right? Bundled with the DLC. A massive new Fire Emblem game is coming. A Splatoon spin-off. We heard murmurs about a new Star Fox game. Another IP being revived. We heard about Ocarina of Time getting a big budget full-on remake, which the movie next year will also be built upon. And hey, we gotta have a big game out there alongside GTA 6, right? You have cool theme parks, you have the Mario movies, which definitely not being a movie of all time, but they are definitely a movie of all time. I don't know, as a fan, I think they're fun movies. I took my parents with me, and we watched it together. My ex-gamer mom loved the movie and was very happy when she recognized a character or a theme. What more could you want? Like, I enjoyed the movie too, what can I say? And this is just year 1 of the Switch 2. In all honesty, I'm pretty satisfied with my Switch 2 and how Nintendo has done so far. Yes, I know. There's enough to criticize the company for. May that be some legal stuff, Nintendo taking down music or videos, then pricing Mario Kart at an outrageous price in comparison to Sony and Microsoft. But overall, I think it's bearable. Could be significantly worse. They haven't increased the NSO price since the very existence of it, which is almost unusual for Nintendo. And also, on a more recent note, Splatoon Raiders is just $50 digitally and 60 physically. The best part? It's the same over here. €50 digitally and 60 physically for a game with the Splatoon IP written on it. I'm honestly very surprised. I think after pricing Mario Kart World at $80 or even over here €90, which is absolutely delusional, and also selling games like Mario Tennis Fever at $70 or €80 over here, and this game selling horrendously bad, even in Japan. I think Mario Tennis Ace sold like, what, 123,000 in its first week? Mario Tennis Fever, 39,000? That's a very slight difference there. And the obvious reason is the pricing. What a strange coincidence that not too long after Nintendo was talking about the variable pricing thing they will do regarding video games going forward, and to see that Yoshi is being sold at 60 digitally and 65 physically, at least here in Germany. Splatoon Raiders at 50 digitally and 60 physically, and a game like Rhythm Heaven at 40 for both, which I think overall is a pretty massive W. Because something that Nintendo loved to do, and they always did, is price just everything at 60 regarding of the game or IP. Maybe even sometimes go to 70. I guess with the only exception being Metroid Prime Remastered, and even then it didn't sell too great. Because it's Metroid, it is what it is. But if they continue to do that, me as a consumer, I would be way more willing to spend a premium price of 70 for a big 3D Zelda, a 3D Mario or Fire Emblem, if we get those smaller priced games, which are still great high quality experiences from time to time, you know, in between them. This would be a significantly easier pill to swallow. Although even there, I would advise you to not buy games day one. Like, only if you really need it. Like, if they announce a Xenoblade 4, I will buy day one, but other than that, why should you? You have a backlog, I'm sure. And I think especially after Mario Tennis Fever, they finally realized that you can't price everything at 70 now. Or I guess €80. Especially in this economy, people just don't have that kind of money to spend. Especially for a tennis game, man. But the prices for this game have dropped a good amount, not too long after. Instead of €80, you can find it for €55 already. And I think someone said the same thing in America. And the game being sold at a reduced price across multiple retailers not too long after release. Another possibility could be the change of the president of Nintendo of America. Granted, the people over in Nintendo of Japan still have the last word, but perhaps she is part of the reason that we have multiple random announcements instead of a big direct. A handheld boost mode which gave most Switch 1 games a Switch 2 edition of sorts in the Switch 2 handheld mode. And now with the variable pricing, it's almost a bit unusual how many positive things we have received in recent times. Especially in comparison to Sony and Microsoft, where both of them are kind of a dumpster fire. Jim Ryan is ruining PlayStation more and more, bit by bit. And Xbox, I mean, I don't know, everything is happening except good things. So, all in all, being a Nintendo fan is definitely not the worst thing out there. I'd argue that we have it rather well in comparison to pretty much every other console. We also have something to look forward to, so that's cool. Although I still prefer the old way with the Nintendo Directs. It's a nice change of pace, you know, waking up one day like, I don't know, next Tuesday and receiving a trailer for a new Star Fox game or something similar, I don't know. I feel like I receive Nintendo news at least once a week. There's always something new popping up. New trailers, new infos, new updates. I can say it again and again, I think Nintendo does a pretty solid job right now, overall. Even more so in comparison to the competition. And I also feel that the hate wave has slowly gone away a bit. May that be related to Nintendo being greedy while PlayStation and Xbox consoles had multiple price increases back to back. Or also the Switch 2 being too old hardware-wise. Although the third-party support and the performance of these games have shown otherwise. Of course, with the asterisk of the devs putting effort into the development of the games for the system. And you know what just happened a second ago? A message popped up saying Orbital's gameplay reveal on a random Friday. Dude, it happened in real time. That's what I'm saying. You just get random stuff here and there. Dopamine, dude, I can feel it spiking once more. At this rate, I expect a new Fire Emblem trailer in 2 weeks, after the Star Fox reveal, and 2 weeks after that, the Duskbloods gameplay reveal trailer. And then the Switch 2 Lite revealed in the summer for $150 less, coming this holiday with a special Zelda edition. In any case, good stuff, good stuff. How is your experience with the Switch 2 so far? Do you have a good time? What games do you play right now? I'm curious. Consider joining the Colony Sparks Discord server, you know, we can chat a bit. It has some cool people over there. Or visit me on my Patreon. It has some cool stuff over there too. Or perhaps Sparks Opus on Twitch, or the Clips channel. You can find it all in the description down below. We are currently streaming Xenosaga Episode 2 right now. Peak, I tell you, and intend to go on to Resident Evil 5 after that. Thank you all very much for watching, and I wish you all a real good one, folks. See you in the next video.